Oh, yeah. I needed that music, man, to fire me up. It's a little snowy and dark and gloomy and shit.
December rules. December's here, and, man, it came with a vengeance. I mean, listen, there's no, no bigger smack to the face than the December 1st that falls on a Monday that also falls on, like, a snow dump. You're like, welcome. We are here. It is now winter. You enjoyed yourself, over Thanksgiving. The weather was a little bit mild. But yeah, here we are. We're here. Welcome. And now you got to deal with it for the next few months. But hey, you know what? That's part of it. That's what we signed up for, because come July, all we're going to do is bitch about how hot it was. It is a Tuesday, a beautiful Tuesday. It's snowy out. The sunshine is still here, though. It's December 2nd, the year 2025. Welcome aboard, everybody. You're listening to the Crushing Iron Podcast. This is episode 893.
Yes, it is. And, we got a lot of snow, but adding insult to injury, the lake has frozen. Plunge season is over in the lake, I think, because it hit hard. And it's not going to get above 32 for the next week and a half. We're done.
Golly, that was short-lived.
I know. The first year I was up here, it was open most of the season. Last year it froze hard like this too, and I'm kind of bummed because I don't know. I can't see it happening. We got one last plunge in at 32.9 degrees. We had to walk too to go get the hole, man. So,
dude, I bet. Golly, kudos to you guys. Yeah, it's like. It was a brutal, it's an awakening, but you know what? It's fine. It's kind of like instead of looking as a downer, we should just look at it as like this celebratory official start to the December rules off season. It's like, hey, you were tweening it a little bit. Maybe you want to go outside, get your last few rides and runs in, but hey, we're here. It's time to shut it down. But yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, we haven't been doing this, but I kind of feel like I need to do it, but we're hosting some adventure camps up here. If you go to C26triathlon.com, click on the camps tab, you can check them out. But in January, we're hosting some people up here. We got a few openings still, and check that out. Come on up and do some work and get out of your comfort zone a little bit. Let's do it.
Seriously, if you're gonna be snowed in, there's no better place to be snowed in and go outside and enjoy some stuff.
Yeah, we got it all in here, inside, outside, you name it. It's all in.
All in. So yeah, get out and go do something, because listen, it's indoor season. Yeah, exactly. And people struggle, they think everybody goes all in January and the indoor stuff. Like, I got there in December and January, like, I got this. And then they burn themselves out so quick, and you need the sunshine, you need the fresh air. So yeah, go make time for yourself and do something like that for you. You'll appreciate it, and it'll probably make your January, February, and March feel a little bit shorter, because it just feels like it drags on continuously. And
yeah,
but yeah, I hope everybody you had a good Thanksgiving. What was your favorite? What's your favorite Thanksgiving part of the meal?
I think it's the potatoes, man. Like a gratin-y type.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
it's hard to beat those.
Yeah, turkey's always solid, but I don't know. There's
turkey
I'm like just a carb guy. You get hurt sometimes.
That's all. Outside of the turkey, that's what Thanksgiving is. That was the one thing. Like, we didn't travel and see family this year, and so that was like the one downer. So we went to a friend's house, and they're from like the New England area. And like, we may lose some listeners here, but those of you in New England, like, if this is the standard Thanksgiving meal, I don't ever want to live there.
Ham?
Period. No. Fucking roast.
Oh, roast.
Yeah, I'm like, listen, I can have roast all fall and all winter. It's like, hey, why don't we do chili for Thanksgiving? They had roast, and then every side item that was white or yellow in America, which is Thanksgiving, right? You got corn, you got mashed potatoes, you got dressing or stuffing, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I did. I missed my grandmother's dressing, like, big time. And people completely just like rip on the Thanksgiving meal. It's at least when Mimi was alive, it was my favorite meal of the entire year. For my birthday, when we used to go to her house, she'd always like, hey, what do you want for your meal? And it's like one of the last years she was alive, I was like, what do I want? I want a Thanksgiving meal in June. I want my turkey and I want my dressing. I want some cranberry sauce, maybe a little bit of a country ham. Or you know what? If you want to just mail it in, Mimi, and go to Ham and Goodies and get like a spiraled ham, I'm good with that. I can eat spiraled ham for the next 3.5 weeks, which is what most people do anyway. You got eggs and ham for breakfast. You got it sandwiches. You got it at night. But yeah, like the roast thing, I guess it was fine. But yeah, it's like the Thanksgiving is all about the side items. I also miss like the sweet potato casserole. That's also like a staple.
Yeah, that's true. That was a good one too.
Sweet potato casserole, either with the marshmallows on top or like the brown sugar and like frosted flakes. It's money. Yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out that for going forward. But yeah, it's dressing and stuff is kind of my main thing. Are you a cobbler at Thanksgiving guy, or like what's the go-to?
What's that, like a chant or something?
What? What the fuck? Chant? What is a chant?
I don't know
what a chant is, but like from a dessert area, what is a chant?
Like, oh, I thought you meant I was like fixing shoes or something.
Chantilly cake, is that what you mean? Like the old chantilly cake?
I went honestly, man, it was straight apple pie.
Ice cream or no ice cream?
No. I mean, not that
No?
we didn't have it, but I'm not a huge a la mode guy.
Yeah, I'm not either. I like just like a dab for the crust.
Yeah, I can go there, but like,
Yeah,
I just
do a
like
dab for
apple
the crust.
pie. I think there's some chocolate cheesecake in there or something.
Ooh.
That was
Yeah, well, you
outstanding.
know what? That's right. And you wonder why we're all moving a little bit slower to start the week, but we're not moving slow. In the Facebook group, popped in there. We try to do this at least every 4 to 6 weeks, but actually like when we remember. Even the off season, there's always a lot of questions going on. So we popped in there. We got questions. We'll read them and then try to answer as many of them as we can. Some of them are all very similar, but yeah, we'll start one off with Trevin. Best way to start building climbing strength on the bike while it's on the trainer all winter. Listen, I think this is a thing to actually focus on year round. But I'm a huge fan, as we've always been. So are you. Generally, the podcast is, and it's like a C26 staple, is like the big gear torque workouts. Like to me, those should be part of your like training 48 weeks out of the year. I mean, like they're a great way to build strength, and I saw something later in here about good threshold sessions, but to me, like that is a great thing, especially if you're adding in strength training right now, like strength and torque work, low cadence work. What do I mean by torque and like big gear work? For those of you that haven't heard us talk about it before, we're talking like cadence of 65 and below, like 45 to 65. Now, if you're just getting into it, I recommend starting at like maybe 60 to 70, just to kind of see, because it does put a little bit of torque on the knee. And especially if you have any kind of like misaligned cleat placement, or your saddle's too low or too high, or your seat's too forward or too aft, like it can cause some issues. So it's not good to like crank it down to like 45. But you can see on a lot of fields now on your Garmin, on any of your like bike devices, and on like, depending on what kind of like virtual software you see, it'll actually like have a field, like a torque field in it. But to me, that is one of the best things you can do this time of year and year round, just to incorporate, it's great to incorporate, new muscle fibers. It's great in producing like more threshold power. It's great in recruiting more mitochondria. It's great in like improving your pedal stroke. And it's also amazing amazing complement to like added strength training. So if you're going to hit the gym this fall, and this, I guess it's not fall anymore, we got our snow, or winter, off season, it is the perfect combo. And you can either do like 1 to 2 minutes right around like threshold, or you can do like longer sustained stuff. And if I'm looking at, like, I know what Trevin and Brittany, I know what you guys are both training for later this year, but you always want to start off, going like a little bit short, a little bit higher. So you might go, 2 minutes at around threshold with some like good rest, and then just kind of lengthen that out to 4 to 5 minutes at threshold. And then, if you end up going 6x5 at threshold and 5 minutes recovery, then end up switching to maybe like 3 times 10 or 12 minutes, more of like a tempo. So you're lowering the intensity, but you're extending the interval length. That's what I would be doing, and just pair it with, strength training in the gym or at home, whatever you can. But that's what I would start doing ASAP. You don't need to do it every ride, But, if you're doing one ride a week, that's quality or intensity, you can do that. But I also think, I believe, and it is a great also place to like weave into your aerobic riding. So if you're doing, you're stuck inside like most of us, and you're on the trainer and you're like, God, these zone 2 rides are so boring. Like, I don't want to do it. I just want to hammer it for an hour, which, listen, we all get, right? Like there's a lot of days where I'm like, God, can I just fucking smash it for 40 minutes and do this hour and a half easy? Great thing to do is like, if you got an hour and a half aerobic, is just, warm up for 15, cool down for 15, that middle 60, just alternate zone 2 heart rate, zone 2 watts. Like, you still are keeping it aerobic. You're still keeping the integrity of the purpose of the ride, but just alternate every 5 or 6 minutes cadence. Just go, for 5 or 6 minutes, go 85 to 95 cadence, and then maintain your heart rate in the zone power zones you want to be in. And then the next 5 to 6 minutes, go down to 45, 50, 55, 60 cadence. Like, it's a great way to just like keep your muscles engaged. And we actually have a podcast about this months ago, just about different ways to create new stimulus that isn't around, more intensity or different types of intensity distribution in like your zone model. But it's a great way to get by. And like thing, like, it's, to me, that's the equivalent of hopping the treadmill for, if you're stuck on the treadmill because it's 8 inches of snow outside and you can't put the snowshoes on or cross country ski, you're like, God, out on the treadmill sounds horrendous. But then you hop on, you do, you're still doing aerobic, zone 2 work, but you can do 5 minutes at no incline, 5 minutes at 3% incline, and then just alternate. It makes the time go by faster. You're getting a bigger benefit, and you're, still incorporating some of the things you want to get better at.
Yeah, man. I mean, you basically summed it all up. I can't really add much to that. Because I do spend a lot of time on the trainer up here, and that's exactly it, man. I really, everybody seems to kind of enjoy the big gear stuff anyway, but I think it's like important. Sometimes I'll even do what I call faux big gear, which is basically super slow cadence at an easy gear. And I kind of just try to like dial in, my pedal stroke, and just kind of sort of like, it's almost like acting like you do you ever do like, if you do a curl with no weight, you can kind of simulate that you're actually lifting weights, if you kind of focus. So it's that sort of thing that I like to try to do, just to break things up. Like you said, I mean, I'm big on figuring out ways to kind of take the sting out of the trainer. And one of the ways is to do that kind of thing. And then I do like to do some, maybe between the big gear sections, I'll, just spin it up a little bit. I just think it's important to kind of vary cadence a lot. I mean, that's just always been my thing is, it really does kind of simulate what you're going to have, in most race courses. And I just think it's good to always sort of practice that, just to kind of be able to go from gear, faster to slower to, just to, sort of train your muscles. I think those are like underrated things to do while you're on the trainer, rather than just going one speed all day, because it really isn't. I mean, it's good. I think first of all, I don't like it because I can't, that's why don't like flat courses really. But, to me, physiologically, it feels bad to kind of just stay at one thing. And I know that that's the key to endurance training. And it's probably why I'll never be a great triathlete, but it's just one of those things. It feels better to me to mix it up and kind of goof around and screw around with that. But, yeah. And the other thing I just like to do is, I spend every other minute in aero. I just kind of, it clicks away. It's like I'm always looking at a minute and I'll pop up and then I'll go down. It just helps me break it. Another guy I coach, he said he plays music and he'll do every other song in aero or something like that. And
I like that.
Yeah. I just think that's a nice little way to sort of like bring yourself into a good position and, ease in over the winter.
Yeah, I mean, that's not the question, but that's a great, like, there's a lot of things you can do that are like that to make the time go by fast. Like when I used to be all about the treadmill in the winter, and I'd like cover up the mileage and the time. And then while watching a basketball game, every commercial break, I'd put it at like 6% and run easy during the commercial break and then back down to 1. And then just time goes by. And listen, the lap button on your watch is like the best thing ever. Like as long as you're not seeing like when you hit the lap, like the time, because I did the same thing when I'm getting back into like feeling myself out in air. I'll start off at like 30 seconds and I'll do like 4 rounds of 30 seconds aero, 30 seconds not an aero, and then do 4 rounds of 1 minute aero, 1 minute not an aero. And then like we're 90 seconds in aero, 90 seconds not an aero, and then just two, and then to work your way up as long as you can. Do that for like 8 or 9 rounds. And you're like, oh, I'm already done. It's just a great way to break things up. And then going back to like your, putting it like your easy watts, but like big gears. To me, that's just the same thing as like hopping on the treadmill and doing like a weighted hike. Like there's huge benefits to all these things. And actually like it goes into one of our questions later and I'll pop back in there, but we'll breeze to the next one to Shannon's. But I will say like, Brittany has some questions in here and they're married. And I just got to say as a coach, if you're listening out there, this is just some advice to you as a coach. If you work with and coach a couple, just disregard everything the man says and make sure you check in with the wife. I mean, like that is standard coaching 101. If they ask you a question about a race, you open up your chat with the wife and be like, hey, so-and-so's thinking about this. What do you think? And they're like, I'm all in. They're like, then you go back, you're like, yeah, I think you should do it. Just make sure you talk to your wife and make sure she okay. That's coaching 101. A happy tri wife is a happy coaching life. Shannon, best way to keep an opinionated toddler warm on a stroller run? Are there toddler-proof hats? A toddler-proof hat's called a condom. I mean, if you don't want to have a kid, like that's the best one is protection. No, like we went through this when Allie had Hayden and we were living here in Kansas the first time. I actually think like kids, like people are always like, you got your kid out in the cold. I'm like, you do realize that for like hundreds of thousands of years, like they were out in like the Arctic. Like, so I would always take Hayden out to run with, and I would always overdress. And if I saw his face getting red, I would like shed a little bit. But Hayden was a champion when it came to the car and when it came to like the jogging stroller. Like I loved running around with him and doing things. So I'm not sure about like the specific outdoor running speed hats, but yeah, I would look into that. I'm not sure you have too much to add on this one.
What is it, opinionated toddler? Opinionated?
I mean, they're all opinionated. They all want what they want.
What does that mean?
That's
it's like
toddlers.
It's like don't go this way, or what? I mean,
yeah, that is also true. Like, yeah, toddlers do. Well, I mean, in all people, right? Like they have their own way you want to go, and if you deviate from said path, and that is also like on the parent. If the first time you go run with them, you need to run a route that you love the most, because if you don't, the next time you go out there, they're going to want to run the same route over and over and over again. And if you deviate from said plan, they will scream and throw. So change things up a little bit and just keep them warm, and if they don't want to go with you, tell dad to step up and take over.
Yeah. Don't take the kid out of the kid. That's what I say.
Yeah, it's true. Susie Shane, most people have a finite period of time to train. How to think about spending time on strengthening your strengths versus strengthening your weaknesses in the off season. Number 2, would like to know if world champs are going to be in the U.S. I can answer number 2. The rumor is 2023 70.3 world champs will be in the United States of America. And from what I'm hearing, it's down to 3 cities: Boulder, Chattanooga, and Madison. Coincidentally, they all put bids in, and they are all down to those 3. So that could be. I mean, listen, I know everybody like, oh, Boulder is like the triathlon mecca. I'm like, that course sucks. Like, it just really sucks. Like, if you're gonna like go somewhere that's awesome, and no offense, but like, I love the Boulder Tech Bros are gonna be disappointed, but it's just the course sucks. It just does. So go somewhere else. On the other one, so my thing on this is like we all have strengths and weaknesses, and I think before you can look at like, how do I divvy up let's say you have a finite amount of time to train, we'll call it 12 hours. Well, the before you start to divvy up, right, like where I'm going to allocate my hours over the winter, is the first question is how big of a strength is my strength, and how big of a weakness is my weakness? Because in 3 sports, we've all got a strength and a weakness. But the question is like, are they all mediocre, right? And one is just slightly better than the other? Because if that's the case, and I wouldn't really call that a strength. I would just call that, like, to me, a strength is like, if you're going out, you're doing 70.3, you're always top 5 age group split on the bike, but the run, you're 20 to 30th, and the swim, you're like, close to last. Like, to me, that's a real, disparity between strength, your kind of your medium, and then your weakness. And that one's pretty easy, right? If that's the case, then obviously you allocate a lot more time to the swim and you try to boost your run up because your riding is already there. You really can just kind of go towards maintenance and just kind of keep your high end power, because cycling to me is like, if you've got it, if you've got that kind of bike power, then you can probably shorten things up a little bit and just make sure you're keeping your threshold. You don't have to do long stuff, because that's where the meat of the hours and the volume go to. And then I would allocate those extra. So let's say you're solid on the bike and you're always top 5. Well, there's the amount of effort it would take you to probably go from 5th to 1st. Obviously it's race dependent, but it's pretty significant from an hour standpoint. Like, you're not, like you said, if you have a finite number of hours, you're not going to just go from 12 to 16. So I would, again, 12 hours. And if that was the disparity, right? Again, top 5 bike split, 20 to 25 run, and the last swim, or close to last swim, I'd be like, you know what? I think for the next like December and January, I'm going to ride twice a week. I'm going to ride hard, like, maybe even like 2 times 20 sweet spot, on, a Tuesday or Wednesday. And then I'm going to keep my longer ride on a Saturday. And I might do 2 hours, and I might spend the first hour aerobic and the last hour just fucking smashing it. That's what I would do. And then the extra hours that I would allocate towards getting an extra swim and an extra run. And you may even be able to sneak in an extra swim and 2 extra runs, because running is the least invasive when it comes to like your day-to-day schedule. Like, you just walk out your house and you run, or you hop on your treadmill in your basement and you run. I mean, like, there's some days, like I did this like almost time benefit analysis on myself yesterday. Like, I rode the trainer, and then it was still early in the morning, hence Estonia, but it was cold, and I was like, I could either hop right off the bike and onto the treadmill and knock out my 25-minute run, or I can go upstairs and get all my winter gear on and then get my watch and then go outside. It's like an extra 15 minutes. And then when I get back, I got to do the whole, like, get all the, winter gear off. Then I get to the whole thing. So I'm like, I'm looking at time savings here. And so running is just all about time savings. Swimming, obviously, like, that's the one that's going to take the most out of you. But again, if you're allocating just an extra hour and a half that you take away from riding, maybe even don't add an extra swim because you're adding in an extra trip to the pool. I would just add an extra 30 minutes to your sessions. So like, I don't want to increase, because the best time on your investment is to add time to an already, invasive trip, which is most people's trip to the pool. So just don't make extra trips, just add extra time to the end of it. And, and you can do like, an easy run beforehand, like, I would just add in as much easy volume as you could in those areas, because you'd be able to maintain the other ones. But that's kind of how I would break things up. Again, more run frequency, and leave the stress to getting better in the swim by adding like those 30-minute, whether it's like 30-minute endurance if you just struggle with form, or maybe adding in 30 minutes of technique work before your main set. That's kind of how I would divvy things up.
Yeah, again, man, I don't have a ton. I think that's right on the point. I think one of my thoughts with this is, if let's say in your example that you kind of consider your run and your swim kind of a bit of a weakness, now it's like people have a hard time working on their weaknesses, I feel like. So is it going to, you know what I mean? It's like, do we load up both, or do we just kind of like try and chip away at one, and then kind of add again? It's like, you look at, a lot of people I know who have really become, solid runners, and we talked about this, I don't know, about a month ago, but it takes time, all these things take time. And I do think that what you're saying about that swim is really important. Is it isn't, a bunch, I mean, I shouldn't say a bunch, or adding a shorter swim or something like that. I think it's good to actually swim long and really work at it and get some good volume in maybe a couple sessions. And then if you're trying to work on your running too, I mean, I just think that, especially at this time of year, for me, I know it's difficult enough to kind of stay in the game. So to me, that's, fitness translates, as we always say. And, if you're going to try, sometimes if you're trying to work on everything at once, it gets a little bit overwhelming, and then, it kind of disrupts the whole process. But I think what you said is great. I just think that it's important to kind of maybe pick one of your weaknesses and really go after it instead of trying to, mediocrely be better at both sometimes. I think it's kind of a, you say finite time, and my first thought was like finite time before a race. But really, if you're in this for the long haul, there's plenty of time. So it's just, I think getting to the pool a couple times and throughout the winter would be a huge success story, and especially if you can add some yardage on that thing and really, really work at it. Because, again, it's sort of like just getting there and knocking out yards and not really working at what you got to work at is part of the weakness thing too. So, yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, and I think that's where most triathletes get in trouble, like you said, is they try to perfect everything at once, right? It's like someone saying they want to lose weight and raise their threshold at the same time. Mm-hmm. You're like, well, every pound you lose, right, you lose some of your threshold because you just have less mass to push it. Like, and you can't like, I want to lose weight and raise my threshold. Like, well, let's pick one first, right? Like raise it and then try to cut weight after that. But that's, they feel like they're missing out, or they're losing too much. And like you said, they end up mediocre across the board, never really addressing anything. So yeah, my goal is to pick one, like you said, and then go from there.
Let me ask you a quick question here on swimming.
Yeah, man.
I'm always fascinated with and you've talked about it, why triathletes tend to have a tougher time becoming a good swimmer, especially if they start late because, heavy legs and, tight legs and, you grew up swimming, and I'm always fascinated by this swimmer's flexibility thing and, just mobility around the upper body and just be able to do that kind of thing. So, I mean, is it just swimming a lot, or do you think that, things like flexibility and mobility of your upper body and working on things like that actually helps swimming? Because, if I run a ton, I start getting tighter and tighter and tighter, I feel like, so it's a weird balance.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think, honestly, a lot of swimmers, like, adult onset swimmers, people picking up later in life, like they spend so much time working on the wrong things. More yardage, more this, more that. And it's like I do this like at the hub, like when the pool, I'm doing swim lessons, and for competitive collegiate triathletes, like we got 2 huge dry erase boards on deck. And I always show them, I'm like, listen, here's the surface of the water. And then I kind of draw a line. I'm like, here's perfect body position. And this swimmer only has like a 60 to 65%, stroke. Like there's just a lot of deficiencies in it. Or here's a swimmer with a perfect stroke. And I kind of angle the person out. I'm like, but look, here's a body position, drag thought. Which one would you pick? You pick the one with the best body position every time. And like, I think we spend so much time, to me, that is the hardest thing to pick up. And I think most swimmers would say feel for the water and body awareness in the water are the 2 biggest things they can take from them when it comes to swimming. And I think it's the hardest thing to pick up later in life, is just understanding where your body is in the water and how to elevate it and keep it high without kicking a million miles an hour. And to me, I got in the pool yesterday, I hadn't swum in a while. My body position is great. My arm strength, less than ideal. So like all I'm going to do for the next, honestly, like 2 months is swim pull buoy paddles for like all of my swimming and aerobic, just to get my arms back up to strength to where I can actually get some speed. But my body position is fine because I know how to lengthen out my body and extend my body to where I'm like dragging, very little through the water. It just makes you more efficient, as you go. And then, so like, breathing and body position are, I think, the 2 things that most people completely ignore when they're trying to focus on like becoming a better swimmer. Is, how do you breathe, and can you even breathe well? It is because most of the time, most swimmers don't even know how to, triathletes don't even know how to breathe. Like their head position, they don't know how to or how to inhale and exhale. They don't know how to, I always tell people, like, pretend there's a fishing wire connect, from your chin to your shoulder, and that should, really create like when your head comes out of the water, because your shoulder pulls your chin, and then your chin pulls your shoulder back in the water. How to keep one eye in the water, whether it's pressing your forehead down or keeping your chin up. Like I go through this a lot, especially with the triathletes that I work with, is like a common mistake that most athletes do, and you see kids do this too, right? Is most people try to raise their head out of the water high to get more breath, right? And I always kind of joke with people, I'm like, you don't breathe with your eyeballs, like, so let's not try to get that. But that's just human nature. Like if we're struggling to breathe, and you're still horizontal and you're parallel in the water, like you try to raise your head up. But what happens is you actually spend so much energy trying to raise your head up, but your mouth continues to stay the closest to the water. And a lot of swimmers struggle with this because they just don't know, but also because they have kind of a panicky feeling. They feel like they need more. But the goal is like if you actually shove your forehead down, then you bring your chin up higher out of the water while actually maintaining good body position, from tips to toes, like your fingertips to your toes. Like these are like small things that, again, people don't ever focus on because it's not about your, improving your critical swim speed. It's not going to show up on Strava. It's just like you got to focus on creating better patterns and then work on the buoyancy part. Like, can you float just on your stomach, like in a streamline? No. And you think like, okay, well then highlight those issues, press, push off the wall as hard as you can, stay in a streamline, see how far you can go, and then see if you float up and you're still like that. Like, and then when you get there, then start swimming. Like, because you should feel, know what it feels like to be on top of the water. We used to do this a ton at, we did these open water swims. I'd bring the paddleboard out and put people on top of the paddleboard, keep their swim stroke high, and then just kind of rip the paddleboard out from underneath them, and they'd be high in the water swimming, swimming wide with an early vertical form, same as a surfboard. And it's just, there's a lot of things, again, like the feel for the water, like just knowing where, feeling it on your hands and your forearms is something that I don't think you have to experience over years. You're assuming it's hard to teach, but also just like the level you are up in the water and how to have a high and tight body position and not sink. And to me, that's like the biggest gain is, again, it's because it's about efficiency. You're going to be faster with less work.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if I answered your question.
I don't know.
That was my small swim.
I knew it was just
for today.
It doesn't take much to get you going.
No, it doesn't. No.
Yeah, I love that. The push off the wall and kind of float. That's the thing that I'll do sometimes and be like, all right, yeah, that's kind of what it. I wonder if it's like not worth spending a lot of time on shit like that. You know what I mean? Just to really kind of sink it into your head and your body and how that feels. Instead of, all right, I got it. And then you start swimming. And then like at the end of the session, you're like, shit, that went to hell. But I mean, it's almost like, what we talked about with the bike and just getting form and, kind of pedaling faux big gears or whatever, just little things like that just kind of really are the most important things in some ways. Like that feel for being on top of the water. If you can get that, you're probably, going from last to certainly maybe towards the, you know what I mean? It's just you're
going to be better, and I think and that's the thing about the swim, right? Is if your bike is already your strength and you have to do a lot of work to improve it, then improving your swim, coming out of the water a little bit further ahead and more fresh is actually going to help out your bike. From on a top end level, it means you come out of the water with all the faster bikers so you can actually work together, legally work together, which is what a lot of people do at the front end. Or you'll come out more fresh, right? And lower heart rate, spending less energy because you're more efficient, and then you can push higher power on the bike. So again, we always think about these disciplines in a vacuum and not how everything, competes together. Wild Bill Calkins. Driving the pool when it's snowing makes me happy. Feels like childhood and teenage years as a swimmer. No question, just an observation. Preach it, Bill. Yep, I'm here for it.
Bill, there he goes.
Love it. Laura Whitney. If an athlete consistently notices they struggle more with their breathing than their legs on the run portion of a try, what do you think could be going on there, and what might be some training strategy to address this? I feel like I only ever see people talking about dead legs during the run, but I always feel like my legs want to go faster than my legs can. Only experiences during triathlons, not during open running races. I honestly wouldn't even look at run anything. I would look at your bike. Are we over biking? And like, to me, like, are we over biking? Is our heart rate so high? Because if that's the case, then you're going to have labored breathing, right? And so if you have labored breathing, then your heart rate's going to be high. It's going to be harder breathing. Your legs are like, oh, why does this feel so hard? It's because you probably burned so much energy on the bike, that you come off the bike so high, you're like, God, I can't get my heart rate down. Can't get my heart rate down. Can't get my heart rate down. A lot of it's that. And then also just making sure when you are training, you are getting your aerobic base to a point to where you can race at a level that's not like 90%. And this, I mean, to me, like, and again, like, it also depends on, what distance you're racing.
Yeah.
If you're doing sprints in Olympics, like, no offense, but your legs shouldn't hurt, right? Like, I mean, they should hurt, but not like the rocks at the end of an Ironman. Like, it should be the breathing, not the legs. Because you should have the legs. Just like, I can't go any faster. My heart rate, my lungs are the capacity, and that's just your speed, and it's also, you see this a lot with athletes that go from longer course stuff back down to like shorter course, is they've got the legs and the durability. They just don't have like that top end. And so to me, that's what I would look at first.
Yeah. I mean, for me, that a lot of my first thought actually was that, sometimes you just got to relax, or at least practice learning how to relax, and doing intervals and kind of pushing yourself and then settling in. Because am I misreading what the question was? Because it sounds like my first thought again was like coming off a bike in an Olympic or a sprint and getting out there and really breathing hard and because they said the legs feel fine, right? Was that the question?
Yeah, legs feel fine.
Yeah, so it's just kind of me. It's like
yeah,
exhaling and just learning to kind of like settle in a little bit more and get your breath under control. I mean, what you said is obviously absolutely perfect, and I also think there's a skill sort of in being able to just kind of calm down as you're running. Get out there and push yourself. It's kind of like the old. A lot of times, what you used to prescribe, and you probably still do, but like, get in the water and just start hard, because you got to learn to relax once you kind of get your heart rate going and your anxiety's up and all that kind of thing. And can you settle back down? So to me, that's a skill. And it's a lot of times has to do with really, letting your body exhale, getting the air out of your lungs a little bit better, because if it's a real short breath all the time, it's tough to kind of relax out there. But I think that sort of just trusting your legs and really focusing on relaxed breath helps a lot on that kind of thing.
Yeah, and there's a little more context needed here. Like, if it's hot, that's pretty much always the case, right? Legs feel fine, but you can't breathe more because it's so hard to breathe, or you're at altitude, or maybe you're coming off being sick, so your heart rate's already elevated. Like, these are all things that can happen, or it depends on how you carry stress. Some people carry stress different. Some people carry stress in like lower HRV, higher heart rate in training. Some people carry it in like physically in their muscles and their tissue with like extra niggles or like muscle soreness and, dead legs. Like, everyone carries stress different. And I think that's also a huge piece, especially like if you're doing extended traveling, for races, like that's going to impact your race, unless you get there like, way ahead of time. Danny, my family has missed me crossing 2 straight 70.3 finish lines. They blame it on my all black kit, as I look like everybody else should. Should I buy a colorful kit so they can miss me again, but in color? Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to put all this on your spouse. I mean, like, hey, listen, if you really, really love Danny, you wouldn't miss him finish. I'm just saying, like, this seems like a clear shot at their involvement in your triathlon journey. No, I'm kidding. Like, I mean, it might be. But yeah, I mean, if they've got kids, like, blame it on the kids always. But yeah, I mean, our kids are great. Like, I'm a huge black and gray fan in general, but I will say, like, going to all of our races and coaching, like, you can see our kids from like 20 miles away. and it is so easy and so nice to be able to do that. So yeah, that's what I would do, is get the most colorful kit possible, and then give them, like, if you think you're going to finish in 5.5 hours, tell them you're going to finish around 6, just so you can finish way ahead and be like, dude, I wore a colorful kit. I came in, you missed me again. This is a you problem, not a me problem.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I try to see people right at the finish line sometimes, and it gets a little dicey. So what I'll do is you should move out like 100, 200 yards, and like have them warm up there and kind of get used to seeing you early. And then if they want to brave the crowd, I mean, because the crowd can really be a tough thing to navigate at some of these races. So just get out there a little bit early, see the finish, but right before the finish.
Yeah, or spend a few extra dollars, get them a VIP pass, have them put the medal around your neck. Then you can see what happens.
Or have them volunteer.
See, there you go.
They could give you the medal, and then it would be phenomenal experience for everybody.
There you go. Roy Ripma, how do we get through the podcast without talking about shoveling snow being good Zone 1 cross training? Well, we were until you asked the question. So Roy, that's on you, buddy. No, shoveling snow is not Zone 1 cross training. Neither is cutting the grass. It's part of being an adult, and it's part of just enjoying life. I mean, we talked about this ironically before we went live, but yeah, I mean, like, shoveling snow is like the Friday lawn cut. Like, who can get out there and do it first and do it the best, because you set the tone for the whole street. But yeah, I mean, it's being like, listen, I'm all for some Zone 1. We know this. All for it. Had multiple podcasts about it, accumulating extra time and extra hours, but that's like, that's like a server at a restaurant, or a nurse, or someone who's on their feet all day long being like, I got 10 hours of cross training today. Like, that's just your job. Okay. It was your job. You're on your feet all day. That's your job. And that's what your job as an adult. Cut the grass and shovel the snow.
I look back on that kind of stuff.
That's my 2 cents.
I mean, I agree. When I see these kind of things in Training Peaks, I'm like, come on. To me, I look back, if I had a good day and it worked out and everything, and then I also shoveled snow, I'd be like, that's just a cherry on top. In my psychological mind, I did a little bit more. I did some good shit for my body. But, Zone 1, Zone 0, I mean, I had
bonus, baby.
I had a great grandfather have a heart attack shoveling. And back in this is many, many years ago, but so it can be intense. It's more like strength training in those regards, I think. But what was the question?
Yeah, he ruined it. He said, "How do we get to the podcast without talking about shoveling snow being good?" So, Roy, you fucked it up, buddy. Like, you don't know if that was on purpose, but
so it's kind of a snarky question, maybe.
I can't tell. You can't tell with like text. There's no. Well,
let's finish this by talking about shoveling.
Yeah, I mean, we were fine. I
got a snowblower because of my great grandfather. By the way,
there you go. Right?
Because I do think about that. I'm like,
going
shit.
Anywhere.
I remember that. It was a Thanksgiving day, and man, it was brutal. No, Christmas, but anyway.
Jeez,
why?
Okay.
I know I brought it right to but he was a wonderful man. I didn't really know him.
Thanks, Roy. Candace Taylor, how important are swim drills in the off season? Example, Tarzan drills. Listen, I get a lot of shit for the Tarzan drill. It's not my fault you guys can't do it correctly. It is a wonderful drill, and it has its place. You just need more upper body strength and better body positioning. That's all it is. But no, I mean, we talked about before, drills. This is a great time of year. Add in extra drills. Don't add in extra swims. Just add in extra time during your swims to add in more technique work, and then cement it like with 25s and 50s, not mindless 600s. And you wonder why you still suck at swimming. Like, focus on getting better and do it now. Everyone else is not going to the pool and getting slower. This is your time to catch up.
I'd spend the whole day pushing off the wall and just floating, getting that body position. I wouldn't even mess, because if you can get that right, you don't even need that much strength, to be honest.
No, it's all about the body.
I've seen a lot of really, really skinny, weak-armed swimmers that are amazing.
A lot of skinny, weak-armed swimmers.
Same with runners, weak leg-looking runners that are just float forever.
Fly, yeah.
So let's just think about that for a minute.
True.
How important
you watch every freaking marathon, you look at them and you're like, how are these 105-pound dudes running? And they look like they're running 9-minute miles. They're running 450s. It's like they just look at, they're so economical. It's not even funny. Last question for the day, Josh Venus. What is your best recommendation to focus on for off-season bike sessions that specifically help lift your threshold and develop an athlete's cycling ability? What are a couple specific sessions and the rationale? I am of the belief that all sessions done help raise your threshold. Even like zone 1 aerobic raises your threshold. If I was to program myself in like trying to raise my quote unquote my threshold, and I had 16 weeks, right, leading into it. I mean, I was like, that's about the amount of time I've got leading into Dallas 70.3 in March. So for 16 weeks, my progression will look like, well, it also depends on like, I mean, are we taking an off-season view? Like, I just want to get a high threshold for my off-season. Or are we taking like, what do I want to look like in August, September, October? Because I think that's a question everyone has to ask themselves is like, what kind of athlete am I trying to build here for the rest of the year? And so let's say if I'm just doing 7.3s and like Dallas is my heyday and then I'm going to quit after the rest of the year, then I'd probably spend, 6 weeks, 8 weeks on, big gear threshold work, like talked about earlier, like 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, longer tempo stuff. And then I would, 6, 7 weeks out from race day, I would go more race cadence and just kind of gradually build up 4x6, 4x8, 4x12, the Glenn Robecki special, 4x15 at threshold inside of like my long rides. Those are great. I mean, easy. Like, again, like a lot of times coaches try to make these like really crazy looking, scatterbrain ADD, like Training Peaks, workouts because they feel like it makes them look more, and it's just not how, like, it's boring, plain and simple, like, and then progressive overload. That's how, so if you're just doing that one, that's what I would do. If you were playing the long game, so say like 16 weeks, I'm planning on doing some racing after Dallas, then I'm planning on doing 12 full weeks of big gear, torque, tempo, threshold work. And then just like the 2 weeks prior, just at that point, doing some longer, like more race cadence intervals, because it's not, might spend more time with that and had to be my age. But then after that, you go right back into aerobic work, then longer big gear work, and then more race pace work, and you kind of shorten those up. But I mean, like, I have a hard time believing there's better intervals out there than 4x6, 4x8, 4x12, 4x15. Work up to 4x20, and then work up to 3x30 in like your long rides like that. Those are like tried and true 70.3 sessions that you'll hear most athletes talk about, but it's about building up. And that's like, to me, you have to build up the big gear torque at that threshold to be able to hold your cycling and pedaling technique at that for a long period of time. To me, it's, and I think that's just an important thing. And I kind of joked about it on the podcast a couple months ago. Is like, I want to be like, if you only did your quality runs on the hills and you only did your quality bikes on, big gear. That's kind of what I'm looking at right now, is doing, just to kind of see how it turns out. With maybe like, 2 weeks left, doing it on flat, just to kind of, crisp things up. I mean, there's no perfect session. There's a few that have been, again, the 4x8 and 4x12, I think those are pretty hard to beat. But I think a lot of people, my biggest problem with like threshold specific stuff is that most people overvalue their threshold, and they might think it's 260, so they're doing all their threshold at 260 to 270, but in the reality it's probably 250, so they're doing extended periods of time at VO2 work, and then they just end up smashing themselves. That's my biggest issue. Like, if I'm pushing threshold, like, in, let's say mine's 250, I'd err on the side of 235, 240, because you can do it for so much longer. You accumulate more minutes at that intensity than you can going above. And to me, the biggest thing is just like making sure you have the right intensity or the right threshold number. And then honestly, like, I would subtract 10 just to be safe. Now, honestly, like, most people are like, oh, I'm going to add 10. And like, because I'm like, no, but it doesn't really, if you're doing long course, like, threshold's important, but it's really about how high can I raise my aerobic watts? So if my aerobic watts at like 135 is 175, then and my end of the year focus is an Ironman, then I'm probably going to do, if I've got 5 rides a week, 4 of my rides are going to be spent around that like 130, 135 heart rate, trying to get my zone 2 watts from 175 to 200, and then spend the other one at like threshold. Because even then, like all that time of your aerobic over, it's also going to raise your threshold. But it's going to keep the energy system that's making that threshold, like the bump from 260 to 70, to become from more of your aerobic capacity, your anaerobic capacity, which is what you want, right? Like if you're going into like longer course, racing, sprint, Olympic, it's different. You want to be very glycolytic for that. But yeah, that's what, I mean, the Glenn Rebecca special, that's all you need, 4x8.
I can see Glenn, he's pumped. But yeah, man, I mean, that's really interesting. I just think that, as a guy who's getting older, like I think about that, it's sort of like, man, I could power out I actually kind of lower my FTP in the winter just because I don't want to be like stretching the boundaries all the time, or like even flirting with shit that I know I can do, but it kind of tanks me, like you're saying. And I approach almost every workout, even bike like that. Let's say it's 4x8 or whatever, where I try to negative split it, because what happens is it helps me build control. And, you talk about, like, I don't know, I think there's just a tendency, and I don't, not everybody, but I think some people think about, man, my max power today was blank. And that has nothing to do with anything, especially like if you're thinking about a long course. So I really think what you said was perfect. It's all about, because you're not really, I mean, that FTP, and we've talked about the challenges with that, being accurate, or different types of testing. There's a million different ways to do it, but I think it's a good indicator. But I just think that there's something about it that kind of skews what we think it really means as far as racing. You know what I mean? And like you're saying, it's like, can you hold X, for 112 miles or something close to X, or you raise your FTP and then just kind of like burn yourself out and start fading towards the end. I mean, I just think there's a psychology of racing, and look, I haven't perfected it or anything like that. I'm just saying that if I know I'm feeling stronger at the end and I'm pushing that fourth 8-minute, segment under control at my highest power of the day, that's to me, that just feels like the way to train for me. I don't know. Rather than burning that first one and then just holding on. I don't know. It's just, it seems like holistically, it's not the best way for me to improve as an athlete and a human being, frankly.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm the same, right? Like when I feel like I'm getting the fittest, and like objectively, both as an athlete, as like, a person, and also as a coach, it's when I go out, I go hop on the bike and I do an aerobic ride and my watts are 10 or 15 watts higher than normal. That's it. That's when I feel the most fit. Not when I'm doing, 4x12s at threshold and I happen to have a good day and my power's good. And then that's why, like, testing is important, and I've got a lot of athletes testing this month, and I did it too. But like, at least for me specifically, my test results, at least when it comes to like going really, really hard for a long period of time, come down to one simple thing: am I going to be a pussy today or not? And that's just a fact. Am I going to go to the well all out, or am I not? And because that's what gets you the number. And I know that might sound crude, but that's just a fact. And that most people are like that. Do you have the mental energy and capacity to go to the well that day, to go that hard, to get the most out of yourself? And if you do, great. And you can put up like, lifetime numbers. But if you can't, then your threshold is going to be lower. But also, if you can that day, the likelihood of you being able to do that every day is like 0. So then you're overreaching. And so again, like when I feel the fittest, when I feel the most efficient, when I feel the most economical, It's when I'll go out for like an easy long run, and then I look at my heart rate, and it's like, in like low aerobic, and look at my pace, and it's faster. That's how I know I'm getting fitter, not really by like what I can hold in a controlled environment, on the bike really, really hard.
Well, you've said it before. Like sometimes you just get in a bike session and think you're going an hour and a half, and then you're like, man, about an hour and a half, you start feeling good, and then you just kind of smash it for another hour or something. Mm-hmm. And like that's what I would say is I would rather see, if you're doing 4x8, you're doing a 250, 240, 230, 220 just to hang on, or 230 at the end. I'd rather see you go the other way and do 250 at the end on the fourth one and maybe do another one. If you feel good, because to me, that's what you know what I mean? That's sort of shit I do all the time. I'm like, man, I feel good now, but it's just like controlling yourself at the beginning of a race and everything, that goes back to that running thing. If you come out and you're just too hot off the gate, then you're going to be fighting your body pump and who knows what else is going on inside your body, just trying to hang on and survive. Or are you under control and then you can just keep kind of going? You find that, I just think that's the, crown jewel in some ways of endurance, is that sometimes our bodies just figure it out the longer we go, but if you put yourself in a bad position from the jump, then it always seems harder. Anyway.
Yeah. Honestly, when in doubt, go easy. Yeah. I was listening to, we'll close it out, but I was listening to a podcast a couple of days ago, and it was so interesting. The guy said, when you tell me you don't have more time, you're really telling me you don't have more time for intensity. Okay. Right? Because like I don't have any more time. And like, you don't have more time because you can't recover because you're too tired because you do much too intensity. But you can't tell me you don't have enough time to do 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 hours of zone 1, zone 2 aerobic work, because it takes nothing out of you, right? It takes very little out of you, and you can do a ton of it, and you can multitask it. But when you're telling me, you say you don't have more time, it's you don't have more time to do intensity.
Yeah, that's interesting. You don't have more. You time. Is it time, or you don't have the energy?
Yeah, or you're too sore, right? Yeah. And it's just, and I need more time to recover. So it's like, oh well, if you're training 10 hours a week and 5 year sessions are hard, and because that makes you need 14 hours of recovery, to ease things off. Well, what if you were like, oh, well, I might not need focused recovery outside of like, getting in bed early, but I could get in 12 and a half, 13 hours. You're getting an extra week of training a month. Anyway, small thoughts.
Yeah. Well, there's always learning in the weeds,
That's right. That's right. They're learning in the weeds. Well, guys, we love you. We appreciate you. Go to our website, c26triathlon.com. It is our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If you need anything from Mike, he is available, Mike at c26triathlon.com. If you need anything from me specifically, Robbie at c26triathlon.com.
All right, man.
Check you later, dude. We'll see you on Thursday.
Sounds good. See ya.
You got it.